All right, guys, welcome back to Strength 101, the podcast where we break down fitness and nutrition into its simplest forms so that you can get the results you want. Today, we're doing something a little bit different.
Ooh.
I'm here with DJ.
What's
Hey,
up,
Deej.
guys?
DJ's our programming manager here at Strength Academy, and today we're going to talk about the new program that rolls out next Monday. And so you'll probably hear this on Sunday, meaning this program will drop the day after. We do all our programs on a 4-week cycle, and we put a lot of thought into them. And it's always really exciting when we start a new program. Our members are excited about it. We're excited about it because we're the ones that develop it. This is the first one that DJ has taken full lead on.
Yeah.
And so this is your baby, man.
Yeah.
How you feeling about it?
Oh, so good. So good. And I think it was just cool to see it all come together too. And it's like, these are some lifts that I could actually get behind, where it's like, I don't know, you bring things too much into cardio. I'm like, screw this. I don't want to do this. But it's like, okay, it's fine anyways. But this is kind of my kind of stuff where it's like, okay, kind of like gearing towards bodybuilding, where I'm like, okay, I know like somewhere between 5 to 8 reps, you're just going really heavy and you're just going to scale up. You're just going to scale up in weight and go down in reps. But there's a little something interesting where, I don't know, we're going to start it off with some Olympic lifts, and then we're going to go down into a power segment, and then we're going to go into a pump segment. But I'm super pumped about it.
Yeah, I think everybody has different programs that they love. I think this one is like has a real good chance to be like a favorite of everybody's, and everybody has a different preference, right? Because we try to alternate here between stimulus patterns, whether that's a priority that it's a power program, a priority of a strength program, or a hypertrophy program. What's this one, Deej?
This was a power program, so I'm excited about it because you get to do a load and explode. So it's a slow and controlled movement, and then you're supersetting it right afterwards. You're going into a power segment where it's about how fast can you contract your muscles and produce force. That's going to be the whole goal of this thing. How much force can we produce in a very short amount of time?
The real important thing is, what's the name?
Oh, Project Powerhouse. I was so excited when I came up with it. I was like, oh my God, I got it. I got it.
It is. We had a different name before that, and I wasn't super psyched about it.
Yeah.
It was an old name, and then you switched it, and now I'm super psyched. And it says exactly what it is, right? We're all going to become powerhouses.
That's the whole point.
Guys, if you're listening to this and you're like, what the heck is the Strength Academy programming, and you want to follow along with the programs that we offer, you can always go to our website, which is www.strengthacademyrf.com, and you'll go to our online training tab there, or I believe it might say on demand, and you can find access to our app, and you can follow along with the workouts that we're actually doing in studio here in real time, or you have access to all the programs that we've created in the past. We put all those on there as freebies as well. So you can pick hypertrophy programs, strength programs, power programs, really whatever you want. Some of them are hybrids even, and it's just fun to switch up your training. You want to keep consistency for at least 4 weeks on things, but we found that it's just the most fun, and we get the best results from our members when we switch it up and give ourselves something new and exciting to attack every single month.
Yeah.
And so power program.
Yep.
Right. Tell us about the overview here. Give us a quick format of what people can expect when they walk into the gym on Monday and they're like, what are we going to attack?
Yep. So we're going to start out with Olympic lifts. We got swings, snatches, and cleans, all going to be on different days. But you're going to start there. We're going to drill it pretty heavily, but then we're going to go into power, the slow and controlled. We got lunges, we got presses, we got landmine RDLs, and it's going to be kind of a burner because I did not expect myself to get taxed so hard. But it's because it's like, all right, really heavy, like lower reps, but then immediately into that explosive power movement. That's where a lot of the fatigue is going to come into play. That's why we're also scaling it down a little bit, because it's like, yes, it doesn't sound like too many exercises, but I felt like I was almost like the fatigue was too real after we were done with the power segment. And that's why we're also going into pump at the end, a lot of high reps. So it's like, all right, we're going to save our joints on that one. So it's not heavy, heavy, heavy all the time. And it's going to be, all right, we're going to lower the weight and go up in reps. And that's where we're going to get a good pump in, get some blood flowing. And that's just going to be an epic Oh, the exercises though are just gonna be epic. I'm like getting so giddy
Yeah,
over here.
you're
I'm
already
like,
excited.
yeah,
Well, and we're
yeah.
gonna dig into them. But like you said, this is a priority, a power program. But I think you could almost consider it a hybrid because we definitely
Mm-hmm.
prioritize the power segment. We hit the Olympic lifts. We're definitely hitting a speed element every single day in that load and explode. But the part of that load and explode, that load exercise is a pure strength exercise every single time. A big
Mm-hmm.
compound lift that we're doing in that kind of that 3 to 8 rep range where we're really trying to load heavy. And then we end with basically straight bodybuilding hypertrophy work. And so it's got a little bit of something for everybody. What's let's bust into day one. All right.
All right. Day one, we're gonna start it off with some kettlebell swings. I think swings are probably the easiest exercise for people to understand what it means to give it some power. Some people could just be kind of floating with their swing and kind of just taking it a little bit easier. Whereas if you like are slamming the bell down, you're really powering through the hips and giving it a lot of effort. It's such a different feeling. Like when you're giving an exercise a lot of power compared to, all right, slow and controlled, just kind of get to the end of that range of motion and then come back down just slower. It's just so much different, I feel like. But we're going to start it off with swings, and it's going to be starting it off week one. We got 15 reps, but it's only 4 rounds. And the rounds are going to be kind of wicked. So it's going to go 4 rounds, then week 2, 5 rounds, week 3, 6 rounds. And then we're going to end it on 7 rounds of swings, which is going to be pretty epic. But I love swings because they're really quick, they're fast, and like 15 reps sounds like a lot, but really, in reality, it's like not even 30 seconds of your time. So
Yeah.
that's going to be the cool part. But then after you're done with your swings, you're going into
Let me pause you there though.
yes.
So one thing that I love about swings, and I used to think kettlebell swings was kind of a throwaway exercise. I kind of discounted it as basically cardio until we started using kettlebells exclusively and started going really heavy.
Yeah.
And I think if somebody's out there and they're listening, they're like, why would I do kettlebell swings if I'm trying to build power or strength? You may be thinking of the people who do kettlebell swings for 30 seconds at a time, 1 minute at a time using a 20-pound kettlebell. But we're talking about doing only 15 reps, only 10 reps, only 8 reps by the end of the program,
Yep.
and being as explosive as humanly possible. And we're going to have people in here swinging the 150-pound kettlebell and really having to react to that load coming down into their hips and having to really drive out of it. And that's why it's a power element. And so we're going to do a lot of rounds of it, but the reps are going to be really short. It's a really fast, explosive movement.
Yeah.
And then we take plenty of rest time before we do it again. And I think it's important for people to remember that if you are trying to develop power, that's what you have to do. Power is defined by us trying to ramp up the central nervous system, and you don't have that many reps in the tank before you're not training that anymore. So you have to keep that work time really short, explosive, almost 100% focused on how heavy can I go at speed without it slowing down too much, and then enough recovery time so that you can repeat that performance again. And I think people, if they want to be athletic and they want to maintain their ability to run and jump and do fast movements over time, are going to have to prioritize that in their programming at some point, where it's really easy if you're just a regular gym bro to go in and just do your slow controlled bench press and everything else, which there's a place for that. But it's always about how you do things, which I think is going to be really exciting for the load and explode element of this, because there's things that we may be using normally as a traditional strength exercise, but because we're focusing on fast, it's a completely different stimulus.
Yeah, it's almost like, I don't know, I love the idea of like when you have a light kettlebell and you're just going for more of a cardio feeling to it, where it's like, okay, we'll go for a minute or something.
It'll make your
as
hips feel
opposed
really good.
to, hey, it's 15 reps. Let's grab a 150 kettlebell, and you got to learn how to tense your body up. It's about how can I tense my body up as fast as possible in order to, one, control the weight in a like orderly fashion, so it's still a good like exercise and your form's good, but also how can I like tense up? Because it's like swings, you could just be relaxed, you can kind of chill out, but you need to learn how can I tense up my body enough for everything to work together? Because it's like swings is a full body exercise. You got to have your feet planted in the ground. You got to have your shoulders rolled back. You got to have your back tense. You got to have power through your hips. You got to have hip mobility. And so there's so many things that come into it to where I'm like, Yeah, this is gonna
Well,
be
and that's a
epic.
huge element of what we're trying to train with power segments, right? Is we're moving something that's maybe moderate weights. It might not be the heaviest thing we can move,
Yep.
but it's getting close to that. And we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to move it so fast that the challenge is when you try to move fast, do your positions fall apart, or can you keep tension in some of those smaller muscle groups so that you
Yes.
can handle that load? And one of my favorite things to say when people are swinging heavy bells is, and this goes for most of our strength exercises too, but either you're going to move the bell or the bell's going to move you. Like there's going to be a clear winner in this.
Yep.
And if you don't tighten up and you're not ready to handle it, that bell's going to move you.
Oh
And
yeah.
people usually only make that mistake a couple times before they learn, luckily. But yeah, you're right. It makes you so firm in the ground. You're so stable all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how to react to forces. It's no different than saying, swinging a heavy kettlebell, even a 60 something
Yep.
would give you the same benefit as me coming up and trying to push you and you trying to hold your ground.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
gives you some stability.
Yeah. It does.
But what about the load and explode on Monday? Let's move on to that.
Well, we'll go to the next segment. We got power, and that's gonna be we're gonna do front rack kettlebell lunges. We're gonna go reverse lunge, but have those kettlebells here, and that way you're gonna have to really challenge yourself. I feel like they're not easy in a front rack position as
No.
opposed to bells like just hanging by your sides. It's really hard to because one, you can have your core involved a lot more in the front rack position because you're rounding out the shoulders a little bit, but then you're going to come down and do lunge jumps, which this was kind of a wicked kind of thing to do, but I'm here for it. Screw it. Why not?
What is
'Cause
that? Did you test this one or did you test one of the other ones?
I didn't test this one. So I guess we
Well,
got
how about
the man
how
behind
about
the
this?
camera.
So for
doing it.
people who have never done this load and explode, you're calling it power right now because that's what we're calling the segment. I always
Yep.
call this stuff load and explode because it's a
Yep.
heavy exercise straight into basically a body weight or lightweight, really fast
Mhm.
exercise. What does it feel like? Because you tested one of the other ones. What does
Yeah.
it feel like when you go to that fast exercise after you just went heavy?
Like you're like, okay, first 3 reps. All right, I got this. And then things start to fall apart. And I noticed this on my landmine presses because it was like, all right, first 3, I'm doing really good. And then I realized my position started getting different every time
Yep.
I went up. And I was like, okay, I gotta collect my thoughts again. I gotta go, all right, where is my arm going every time? And so it's very easy to be like, okay, let me just get this thing up there. But you have to think about the path. Where is your elbow really going? Are you staying in realm of good form? I think
Mhm.
that's just the thing people need to kind of be mentally aware of is you're going to get fatigued. Your brain's basically just going to start shutting down. You're not exactly thinking, oh, I need to remember to do this, to do this, to do this.
Yep.
Your brain starts shutting down as fatigue goes up. And so it's like,
Mhm.
okay, the more and more you can bring the awareness to, all right, how is my form doing while I'm fatigued? I think that's just the biggest thing anyone could do because any good lifter, it's like you get fatigued, but you still have to keep
Yep.
good form. And that's where the good work is really going to lay in is can you keep good form while you're really tired?
And that's really the difference between, I think, beginners and people who have been doing it for a while is it's how ingrained is it in you? And that's what we're
Yep.
trying to do here, right? And another thing I'd like to point out is what we really like, one of the things I really like about this load and explode format is, let's say we were to try to develop agility and power in somebody in a traditional sense, and we were going to do a bunch of plyometrics. Well, we don't have all 22-year-old people here who are psyched about doing plyometrics all the time.
No.
And even if it was, let's say we were doing plyometrics with you, if we just said do lunge jumps and we're just going to have you do them as fast as possible and as explosive as possible, and then we're going to have you stop when you're no longer feeling explosive and fast, or when we see a marked decrease in your speed, you might be able to get in 10 each side, 15 each side, 20 each side. The amount of reps you may have to do before you fatigue is so high that now we're putting a ton of stress on your joints, your ankles and your knees.
Yep.
And for people that are in our gym that may be 50 years old and they're working on regaining their explosiveness and their ankles and knees aren't ready for that, what we're doing is that front rack lunge is going to pre-fatigue the type 2 muscle fibers, which are the ones that are the most explosive ones. They're also the ones that grow the most. They're the ones that you get stronger with strength training. And then you still need those to your explosiveness, but now they've been pre-fatigued. So right here on this first week, you only have 6 each side lunge jumps. And like you mentioned, we're probably going to get 3 reps in and then feel like we slow down because we pre-fatigued. Now we're being effective in challenging the central nervous system
Yep.
with at least half the amount of reps, if not even more than that. So we just saved everybody's knees and ankles while developing the muscles. And I think that's a no-brainer when it comes to programming for people of all ages, as opposed to just sending people into plyometrics when they may not be ready for it.
Yeah. And I think it's just nicer when that load exercise is something very basic that people know well and are able to go really heavy on. I think that's also the key is you have to go heavy on your load and explode. That's where it's like, all right, before you only do the explode part, you can get that 15 reps. But now it's like, all right, if I went really heavy on an exercise that's load and then I go to the explode one, it's like I'm not going to get nearly as close to that 15 reps. And I think that's the biggest part about power is just like
it's still pushing to failure, right? We talk about how we have to push our muscles to failure in order to get them to grow or to get them to be stronger. Same thing with speed to a certain extent. You have to push your central nervous system until it starts slowing down, and that's the signal to the body that it has to improve its signaling capabilities so that we can be more powerful. And so I think the lesson here too, this is the stuff I get so psyched about, is that there's just so many different ways to train people and so many different ways to skin the cat that if you just go with traditional ways of doing things, you might be missing a much more optimal way to train people without risking injury. And I think that's what you've prepared for us in this program.
Yeah.
But what about the pump, man? I think both of us are excited for a sick pump. As I'm looking at these exercises across all the days, I can't pick one that I'm more psyched about than the others. Well, maybe I can. I don't know if I'm as psyched about day 2, but that's leg work, and I'm a dude, man. I just want some big arms on me. So what about Monday? What do we got set up Monday? How are we going to go about it?
We have 2 kettlebell bench press already. Like, hey, this is going to be awesome. And then you have lat push downs after that, but we're going to do straight sets here. And that just means, all right, you'll do your 2 kettlebell bench press, and you're going to do 3 sets right in a row. Maybe not in a row. Get your rest time in so you can appropriately attack it. But either way, we're going to have 14 reps. And to be honest, it's going to stay around there for about the entire time. Why 14? Because screw 15. 15's used all the time.
It's just overused.
I don't know. I just want to be different.
You're stumping for the underutilized numbers.
I'm like, hey, man, 14's a number 2. Like,
Fair.
Yeah.
So when somebody's doing straight sets like that, as opposed to doing supersets, what kind of feeling and rest time should they be looking for? What should it feel like to go through 3 straight sets of bench press when we're saying this is a pump or another word we like to use for it is hypertrophy, which just means that we're looking for pure muscle volumization, muscle growth. We're looking to flood the muscle with blood and fatigue the crap out of it. What are you feeling when you're doing that?
So I think it's like you're definitely going to want to go and gear it towards more, all right, we're going to take the weight down a little bit. Because if you go, all right, I'm going to grab my 3 rep max and go for 14, you're going to die out really fast.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to take down the weight a little bit. But I will say it's like, it almost feels like the muscles that you're targeting are almost on fire. It's like, as long as you can get we want to limit the rest time, but give you enough. Like, we don't want it too long, because then it's like, all right, we already kind of lost a little bit of that fatigue. You want to build up the fatigue. You want to feel like it's burning out a little bit. And that's the whole point is, okay, can you reach failure during this? And I love the idea.
What does failure mean to you?
For me?
When you're coaching people and you tell them to push to failure on something like this, what does that look like?
Good question. But for me, failure, it's like, if I get to the point where I'm shaking, I'm really shaking, it's hard for me to get that rep up, that means I'm probably getting really close to failure. And
so when we see DJ having a seizure, we know that he's doing good things for himself. But you're right. That's like a byproduct of it, right? But so if somebody was doing a set and they're like, hey, how do I know that I've reached failure? Like, I know it sounds like an obvious question, but we do get that question a lot.
One, you're definitely going to slow down during your reps. It's not like you normally have a certain speed where when you first start, you're like, okay, this is where I'm going at. And then somewhere along the lines, maybe it's rep 9 or 8, somewhere around there, it starts to slow down a little bit because it's getting hard. You're getting fatigued. Muscles are giving out a little bit. And that's like, I can tell, 1, I'm shaking a little bit. 2, I'm slowing down in my reps in that range of motion. It's like, okay, I'm no longer pressing up. as fast as I was before.
You're still trying to press as hard and as fast as possible,
Yes.
basically, right? But it's slowing, just the sheer fatigue is slowing you down, correct?
Yes.
So, fun fact about that, I don't think we have ever talked about this, but if you really dig into the people who get super deep into muscle physiology and the reasons why, or the signaling behind what causes the body to stack on muscle mass, that is what they've identified. When you are pushing at maximal force and velocity slows down while you're trying to produce maximal force, that is the main signaler for muscle growth. And so we see that when we do our strength exercises, because just the sheer load, once that fatigue hits, it slows down. That's why we tell people to push through a few grinding reps. It's important to do that. Or just because of the pure fatigue of you're running out of energy in your muscle when we're doing higher reps, that same thing can happen. But I think that's when you say, like when we say push till failure, if you're trying to grow muscle, which I think that's what most people are trying to do, that's what you're looking for, is at what point during the set, whether I have to push an extra 5 reps or not, am I trying to push this as hard and fast as possible, and I'm just going so slow during it? That's the actual signal at the muscle level that says time to grow.
Yeah.
So
and I
you can lean into that.
The idea of, like, whenever I'm trying to push members to failure, I'm saying, hey, guys, like,
you talk crap to them.
You suck.
Sometimes we belittle them, so they feel like failures. Doesn't grow much muscle.
Yeah, I've been training to failure in life all the time, But I love the idea of, hey, guys, you're going to have to push past your limits. Whether it's, hey, you're grabbing a new bell that's higher in weight, or you're getting it a little bit more reps at that same weight that you were doing before. I love the idea of, hey, like, it's a new day. You don't know how strong you are today. Maybe you got good sleep. Maybe you are stronger than you think, and all you got to do is grab a heavier bell. And I think some people will go in, grab the same bell every time, but it's all about progressive overload too as well, because I think that's just a good lineup into this, is you have to be willing to, like, maybe this week you do, like, the 25s for your Z press, and then it's like, okay, after that, maybe you try and do just a little bit more reps. Or you grab a bigger bell, maybe you're doing less reps, but it's at a heavier weight. And so it's going to be a little bit harder. But I love that idea of just push past your limit, and your limit's going to grow.
I think that's the right way to think about it, is over time, let's say over the course of the month that we do this program, you should definitely be looking to either go up in repetitions with the same amount of weight, or you should be able to go up in weight. And that's what we want to see, a progression over a more macro scale over a longer period of time. In session, I think the progressive, or not the progressive overload, but the failure that we're looking for is this concept that every single set, you have an opportunity to send a signal to the muscle. And that signal is just saying you're not enough. So you need to push it to the point where it could no longer do what you were trying to tell it to do. And then you have sent that signal to the muscle. And every set is an opportunity to do that. Now, one thing I want to mention before we move on is that when you are attacking straight sets like this, you're right, rest time is really important. If I were to hit 14 reps on my bench press, and then I only rest 30 seconds and I go back again, the weight that I'm going to be able to do is so much lower than the first set that we're risking not being stimulating enough to grow muscle. We have to be above a certain threshold on weight to be able to grow muscle. And so we want to try to maximize our performance. So that might mean you actually need to take a minute and a half or 2 minutes and then hit a set till failure again, and then take another minute and a half to 2 minutes and hit another set to failure again. And maybe the only one that you should really see a significant decrease in weight is on that third set.
Yeah. That's flashing cards at me, and I can't read. Oh, thank you. Blessings.
We got audio issues. You can just tell us. It's more fun if they can hear you telling us. Okay, so we have bench press on our pump section, and then we have lat push downs with the cable, which is one of my favorite exercises for legitimately feeling like you're a cobra and feeling that large back. That combo is going to be sick, man. I'm really excited.
And I was training one of my clients, and we were talking about bench press, and I was like, you can use a decent amount of lats in your bench press as well. Like, it is very well in there. And so it's almost like it would be cooler if I went and did lat push downs first and then went to bench press, because it's like you can feel the work that you just did. And I love that feeling of, okay, we're going to combo these exercises. You're going to feel a little bit of what you just did. And I feel like that's a good signal for people to also know, oh, this is the muscle that I worked.
Yeah.
Oh, like
It's
this.
an awareness thing.
It's the awareness, and I think that's all about.
Mhm.
Lifting is literally, how can I build my awareness? Because somewhere along the way, your form's going to turn.
Yeah, you're going to lose positions, and if you're
Yeah.
not aware of what the right position is, then you could be doing the wrong thing for 2 years, and that's what a lot of people probably do.
And that's literally my job. is
The
I'm just
the
like,
top
all right.
bench presser in the world, and I'm sorry I forget his name, but he's a massive man.
Yeah.
Says that the bench press is a lat exercise.
Yeah.
And so that should tell us something. And you're right. When you are bench pressing, while the lats don't move a ton, they are stabilizing the shoulder with such sheer force that if you are bench pressing really heavy weights and you've been in the gym for a little while, you should almost feel like cramping or fatigue in your lats when you bench press.
Yeah.
And so it's something, if you're kind of newer to lifting and you go through this program, maybe something to focus on. Can I actually feel my lats pull my shoulders down and lock my shoulders into place when I bench press? And that lat push down is only going to help them feel that.
Yeah.
But let's move on to day 2, man. We got to make sure that we get day 2 and day 3. I mean,
Yeah.
day 1's exciting.
We're slow
but we got some
moving,
fun
but-
stuff too. What are we starting out with our Olympic lift? Take us through day
All right.
2.
Day 2, we're starting it off with a kettlebell swing snatch, which I'm excited for because we did snatch from the floor in Jingle Bells, which is around December.
Yeah.
But now we're going, all right, let's learn how to go into a swing and then go and bring that bell overhead, which I think the swing just like, I feel it's almost lighter that way, and I feel like I get more weight on top of there, and it's just like, okay, at the top, you really have to learn, how can I stabilize my shoulder there? Because I think a lot of people aren't really familiar with that. How do you stabilize your shoulder while in an overhead position? It's like you have to be able to lock it down. You have to be able to tense it up. It has to be ready to handle the weight before it's even up there. And so I'm like preparing my shoulder. Hey, we got to be ready to tense up at the top.
Well, we have prepared, right? Because we've been doing a ton of overhead press in this current program that we're on. We think through these things a little bit, right? A bunch of overhead press, and then we've been doing some overhead carry work so that people aren't shocked when that kettlebell, jerks on their shoulder a little bit in the snatch. I think the one thing to point out about the swing snatch too, for those of you that are going to do this program, is when you first start doing the swing snatch, it doesn't feel like it's a leg power exercise. It kind of feels like you're just swinging with your hips. But then once you learn to use the momentum, and as that kettlebell passes through your hips, you actually drive down into the ground, similar to what I would say is like a box jump, where you actually drive your force vertically and down into the ground, then it becomes very much a power exercise. Whereas somebody who's just letting the momentum kind of carry the bell, then it's not really powerful yet. But the people who get better at it, and that's just comes with technique and awareness, once you do that, you can snatch some really heavy weights, and we expect to see people up into the monster bells. So that's going to be 97 pounds. I'm sure we'll see a couple people testing the 106s. Maybe we'll see somebody do the 124. Do you remember what I hit last time we did the dead snatch? I think I did a couple reps with the 124, but it was messy. And so with swing snatch, usually we see people able to go a little heavier. Maybe we see somebody try the 150, which I don't know if that's just dumb, but should be fun to watch. What about our load and explode segment for day 2?
Then we got something a little interesting. Alternating Z press paired with your single arm landmine press. And
will you describe a Z press? I think there's a ton of people out there that will not know what the heck that is.
Yep. And so just thinking, you're sitting on the ground, you have to have your legs super wide, like you're about to do a good morning, and then you're going to go and do just one arm at a time, really punch through and get your just a shoulder press all the way through. But I think it's just so different because it's like, if you don't have good hip mobility, that sucks.
Yes.
I do not have good hips. And I was like, all right, this is kind of a burner. So you have your hips, then you have to have that core engaged because you're on the ground and your hips or your legs are super wide. And so it's like, you don't want to lean back. You need to use that core, hunker down, and then press all the way through and punch that hole through the ceiling. But man, is that a difficult exercise to get down.
Yeah, but it's great though. It's a great combination of strength and mobility. I love the Z press because we are always telling people not to arch through their lower back too much when they're overhead pressing. And when we sit them on the floor like that. And so I don't know if this is true. Somebody in the comments, please tell me whether this is true. I think it's called a Z press because of coordinate systems. You got your X axis and your Y axis, which would be your legs in this situation.
Yep.
And then your torso would be the Z axis, so Z press, right?
Ooh,
Yeah. Fun fact of the day.
whoa! I think you just blew my mind.
Just-
But yeah, let's go
Great,
with that.
thanks.
Yeah,
But when we sit somebody on the floor, now they can no longer arch their lower back to
Yeah.
get that cheat of mobility, and so it forces them into a really strict position. And I always feel like my shoulder mobility is forced to open up, and yes, it does. It puts such a stress on your hips that your
Yeah.
hip stability increases as well. And so I'm psyched for that. And then what did you say we follow it with?
So we have the single arm landmine press, which is going to be a little bit different. And I don't know if everyone knows what it is, but landmine, you just kind of have a barbell locked in somewhere, but you're going to come down on a knee, and then you're going to be as explosive as you can and really just try and power through and punch through the ceiling as fast as you can. And I will say that one, I felt my shoulders just give out. I
You
was
just feel so
like,
athletic doing it, though. It's fun,
it is fun.
but it's
fun.
exhausting.
And then it was the exercise where I was like, oh, I'm definitely realizing my elbow's not going where
Yep.
it was at the beginning. And so I think that's something to watch for as well. Is just like, can you keep that same path every single time? That's just gonna be the goal. I think I want people to just build that awareness of how do your reps change as time goes on. Maybe it's fine round 1, maybe round 2, but then round 3 and 4, that's gonna be the ones where build the awareness.
Technique.
Yep.
We're always coaching people on overhead pressing to try to keep their elbow forward. At least don't flare out prematurely. Eventually, as you transition through the midpoint, your elbow is going to flare out.
Yep.
But we don't want that to happen too early, and you're dead on. I think that's what's going to happen to a lot of people when they first get into that landmine presses. They're going to get 3 good reps, and then all of a sudden that elbow is going to start flaring out, and they realize, I don't actually have control of this. But that awareness of knowing that I should control it is going to have them think through what muscles do I now need to tense up to keep that position, and that's power, right?
Yep.
So, what about the pump section? You got something good for people here.
Yeah, this one is going to be good. So we have suitcase box squat and air squats, and we're going to superset this day. So as soon as you're done with your suitcase box squats, if you don't know what that is, you basically have 2 bells right by your sides, and then you're just coming down into a box squat with those bells by your sides. And I will say it's almost like correct me if I'm wrong, kind of like a trap bar kind of deadlift almost.
Yeah, a little bit.
I
think that in like at least the feeling of it when I've done this suitcase box squat is, yes, we're keeping our toes pointed forward, we're keeping our knees pointed forward, and it's almost like the perfect correlate to sitting back in a chair.
Yeah.
Because the bells kind of pull you forward a little bit, but we tell everybody to fight for a super upright torso. And the stress that I feel in my knees, and when I say stress, I mean a good stress, is I think the thing that inhibits some people from being able to sit down and stand up really well.
Yeah.
And so you can just feel a massive amount of tension in the quads.
Yes.
And so while some people can do other types of squats and they can rely on their hamstrings and their glutes and a wider hip position to do it, this locks people into that straightforward position and really intensifies the quad action, which then you have taken and coupled with.
I coupled that with a body watts. Oh my God, a body weight squat, which we upped it. I brought it to 20 reps, and I don't think people will be too happy with me. But I will say,
it's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
They'll love you when their quads are popping out of their jean shorts.
Yeah. I was like, you know what?
You get some jean
you can
shorts.
blame me for getting you stronger, better, faster, all those.
I'll take it.
I will say it was a quad burner just going from the suitcase box squat into air squats, and it was just like it's all on the quads, and like. There's nothing else really about it that's like leg intensive. It's just
looking for that metabolic fatigue again,
Yep.
man. Like some people will go pretty heavy on those suitcase box squats because they know they can.
Yep.
And it's to a box, so you're safer, right? You're sitting back, you have that stability there. There's not much risk. And then you're just going to be so torched for those air squats, no matter which order you do them in. And then we are prepping for Murph, which is on Memorial Day. And those of you who don't know what Murph is, you should go look it up real quick, but it's a workout that happens on Memorial Day. I would say gyms worldwide at this point. It's pretty much a big tradition now, and we'll do it here. But it's a lot of air squats, a lot of pull-ups, a lot of push-ups.
Yeah.
And so you're getting us prepared for that, which I'm excited
I'm
about.
getting my vengeance this year for Murph.
We do have to tell a quick story about this, so I'll tell it. DJ is a phenomenal runner. You spent time in the National Guard, right? Yeah, National Guard.
Yep.
So especially when you came in and you were just like, we were first getting to know you, we knew you were a stellar runner, We know your pull-ups are amazing. Your push-ups are amazing. So we're like, man, he's going to crush Murph because that's basically it. It's a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and then another mile run afterwards.
Yep.
I was in the same group as him when we did this workout. When we finished the mile run, there is a quarter-mile straightaway back to the gym. When I rounded the corner, I was in second place. DJ was in first place, and he was nowhere to be seen. So he was at least a quarter mile in front of me. And then we get in, we do all our pull-ups, our push-ups, our air squats. At some point during that, you made a trip to the bathroom, right?
Yeah. Well, my thought process was, oh, I'll do the run portion then. Maybe I'll drink some pre-workout and then I'll like bust out all
So
this
you
stuff.
drank pre-workout after the run?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
fresh in your belly. That makes sense then.
I went in the bathroom. I threw up everything I had that morning, which was like 4 eggs, a bunch of chocolate milk and milk. And I was just like, oh, I felt so gross. I lost it.
So then I don't, I'm in the middle of my own workout, so I'm not really paying attention to what Deej is doing. And I go out, I finish my run. So I do another mile run. And as I'm talking to some of the other members that have been finishing, DJ, the rest of the gym had cleared out, right? You were out last?
Dead last.
Dead last. All of a sudden, I'm standing around talking with the members that have finished, and he comes bolting. Like, as fast as he did his first run, he started on his second run, comes bolting out of the gym.
Yeah.
And so, you're going to crush us this year, I know, but that was super funny. Especially since you had only been working here for like 2 months or something at the time, right?
Yeah.
But that's funny. But on to day 3, because that's what the people are here for. Is they want to know about Project Powerhouse. All right, what are we starting out with on Friday, day 3? What's our Olympic lift?
2 kettlebell cleans, which
Psyched.
I will say I never realized how taxing cleans are, especially double kettlebell. Like the amount of technique and the amount of just force you need to produce from the ground to get those bells up into that front rack position. It's a lot.
Yep.
It's a lot. It's a full body thing.
Well, it's basically an explosive deadlift at its heart, right? Like that's where all the power's coming from. And we just did some deficit sumo deadlifts in the last program, so everybody should be pretty prepared for it.
Yep.
But I'd argue a lot of times you have to tense up harder than I think about tensing up on a heavy deadlift. Because you can go really heavy when you do this, and if you're not super tight, then it'll get wily on you, and you're trying to catch them.
Yeah, if you're, it's almost like I always describe it like if I were to do a deadlift, and I'm tensed up at the beginning, and then I relax somewhere in the middle, that's where injuries are really prone to happen, and that's where it forms really easy to get wrong. Where it's like you have to be willing to tense up all the way through, finish the movement. And then you can relax. I think that's just kind
especially
of
on the
thing.
catch. I would say that's where I think a lot of people get relaxed. Is they're tight and they're powerful off the ground, but then they loosen up to try to move fluidly into position to catch the bells. But if you don't pre-tighten, then it just feels like those bells are either going to push you around or you're going to push them around, and you have to be an immovable force, whatever the term is, against those bells. And so you want to get tall on that. And you want to get those elbows underneath really hard, but you got to be tight as hell when those kettlebells come crashing down. And if you are, then they're going to be nice and stable, and it's going to be locked in. And if they're not, then you're going to maybe fight with it. We're going to see people drop a bell once or twice.
See some funky things with elbows, arms. They're going to be
part of the
flailing around. But once you learn how to tighten, it's like, oh, this feels infinitely better than before. So.
And and if you get good at them, you feel like a freaking titan. There's nothing feels much better than a double. Well, there's a lot of cool things in the gym, but I love double kettlebell cleans. And if I get a really heavy double kettlebell clean in, I feel like a freaking monster.
Yeah. And like that, it just feels like a rewarding exercise.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah.
It's like a little bit technical, but it's also raw power. It's just fun. What about on our Loaded and Explode for Friday?
Oh,
you loved this.
I am excited for this. And so we have a landmine RDL. Oh, my God. But the kicker is we got a toe elevated landmine RDL. And so
you snuck this variation in. I'm psyched about this. Yeah. We haven't done this ever.
And so I think for me, the biggest thing is I have really strong hamstrings, but like I never get a really good stretch on it. And like we did it, both of them. We did just on the ground flat, and then we did toe elevated. And I will say the amount of stretch that I can get with a toe elevated RDL was insane. I almost didn't even want to go all the way down because it was like, holy, I'm stretching this so crazy. But I love strength at length. I think that's the best thing you could probably do for yourself is go
I think you're dead on that. The more experienced I become as a trainer and a coach, and especially the more people I work with that have rehab issues or really tight muscles because they injured something, the less I prescribe stretching. I think a lot of people walk around feeling like my hamstrings are strong, but if I go to touch my toes, they're really tight. And stretching may not be your solution to that. It may not help. And especially like you're strong, you have a 500 plus pound deadlift. If you bend over and your hamstrings are tight, body weight toe touches are probably not enough of a stimulus on a hamstring that is capable of doing 500 pounds on a deadlift in order for you to get stretched out. And so something like this, where we're sneaking in that extra range of motion by elevating the toe and then forcing ourselves to go into a stretch with load, that's finally going to be enough for especially our big, strong people to loosen up those hamstrings. And you're right. Like mobility is just strength at length. And if you start thinking about it that way, then you can start training that way. And then that's mobility that you keep. Whereas I think there's a lot of people out there that they stretch, they feel better for 20 minutes, and then they're right back to where they started.
Well, that's the thing is I think stretching, whereas like it can be useful, but like I feel like any dynamic stretching you could do a little bit before lifting will allow you to open up, get a little bit more range of motion on some things, and that's where you can lift and then strength that length there and then maybe stretch at the end. Like I think that's a way better setup than I'm just at home, I'm stretching, then literally 30 minutes after you're done stretching, it just goes right back to where it was. So like what exactly?
Well, they've shown that, so stretching, actual increase in range of motion is what they call longitudinal hypertrophy. And so that means that when we're trying to get the muscle to grow bigger, we're putting muscle on in parallel. But with range of motion, we're putting it on in, what's the longitudinally. So like stacking it like in a line.
Yeah.
And so you want to treat stretching like that. And if you're really strong, a body weight stretch is not, if we think about how we increase hypertrophy, we need to take something to failure. And so you either need to stretch really intensely, which some people find a lot of benefit to that, going into a really intense stretch for 30 seconds instead of holding a light stretch for a minute or 2 minutes. But if you lift and you intentionally try to push that range of motion just a little bit better every single time, then you're probably going to get that longitudinal hypertrophy.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of nonsense, but
mini rant.
I would say one thing is when for the members out there, when they go into this landmine RDL with the toe elevated, if you start to feel that hamstring feeling really tight, don't just push more into it to get to your range of motion that you normally would have without the toe elevation. You need to take that as a signal that it's telling you to stop right there and then come back up. And then go back down into it, and you're going to go knock on that door of that tightness, and eventually that door is going to open up, and you're going to be able to go deeper, but you don't want to just push past it unnecessarily.
Yeah, it's like round 1, you are probably not going to be anywhere near to where you are on round 3 or 4. Like, it's just how it is.
Yes.
Like, you're going to open up, the blood's going to start pumping through, it's going to open you up, and you're going to be a little bit more flexible than you were before. I definitely saw that while I was doing it as well. It was like, okay, you know what? First round, I felt like everything just sucked. And I tried to push it a little bit, but I was like, okay, that's just not doable right now. And then as time went on, it was
give
like,
yourself
okay,
time.
I'm feeling good, and I'm getting a lot deeper. I could get to the floor, but it took me a little bit. And so if you're coming in on that last day, just take it easy for the first round, feel yourself open up, and then go for it. But
and then as soon as we do that,
after you're done with that, we're going right into box jumps. And I love it because it's like, it's the exact same muscles you're using during your RDL. It's like, you think about a box jump. You're caving down your chest. You're powering through your legs. And it's going to be really hamstring kind of focus as well. And I did not expect, I can normally do box jumps no problem at like the 30 inches. And now I was like 4 reps in. I was like, God damn, what the hell just hit me? It was just like,
you went all Southern on us when you did those.
Damn.
But you're right. The box jump, I think a lot of people think that squats are going to make themselves jump higher, and that's definitely possible. But when you're doing a box jump or you watch somebody in the NBA go to jump towards the rim, there's way less knee bend than you think there is. It's a lot more hip action than it is knee action. Sure, there's some knee bend, but I've never seen anybody in the NBA squat down to the ground to gain power and like a frog and then jump up to the rim, because that's just not how we jump. And so RDLs mimic a box jump way better than an actual deep squat does, I would say. And so I'm psyched that you put those together. And then finishing up our pump on a Friday.
Oh.
How are we going to feel? What are we going to do?
Well, we got straight sets here, same as Monday, but it's single arm row, and it's then we'll go into push-ups. And I love it because we're going to prep for the Murph. We got air squats on day 2, then we have push-ups on day 3. Where are pull-ups? We just did 8
we just did 8 weeks.
So
we're good at pull-ups.
We're going to chill out. We're going to chill out for a little bit. But single arm row, I will say, I think I found that I tried to go really heavy, and then I was just throwing the weight around. Whereas I realized, okay, let's take it a step down and just focus on the squeeze at the top. Can I really get a good position? Can I feel the lat actually squeeze? I think people are just really familiar with, oh, this is supposed to be, I go really heavy.
Yep.
And so you're just kind of throwing the weight around, not really thinking, okay, where's my elbow position? Can I roll my shoulder back and then squeeze my lats at the very top?
Then that's the key right there. Pull the shoulder back first. Almost if you're new to this, or if you don't know if you've been doing it correctly, treat it like a 2-part movement.
Yep.
Shoulder goes back first, and then the elbow comes back, and then you'll feel the lat differently if you do that. And I think you are dead on. This is probably the exercise that more people that do too much weight on than any other exercise. And we can go to any gym in the nation right now and find some idiot trying to lift a 200-pound dumbbell, but all they're doing is using their legs and letting the momentum go up, and they're like, I'm super strong back guy, when they could use a 100-pound dumbbell and get way more gains from it.
And I was debating whether or not maybe I should just make this a dead stop row, actually make people stop. Like, I think that's just the thing, is people like to just barely even tap the ground, and then they're jolting back
into
up.
it.
And it's like, all right, we got to just like set ourselves. Remember, roll the shoulder back first. Because I think some people have that shoulder forward, and then they're just driving their elbow back. And that's why it's all in that shoulder and all in that like upper neck feeling, where it's like, all right, we want to feel it in our lats right by our side.
Which we do want that shoulder to roll forward at the bottom. We would love to tell people to stretch and then squeeze.
Yes.
And so if you can get on a high enough bench that you can actually feel like you're reaching towards the ground and feeling everything get stretched out, and then you're focused on it and not using too heavy of weight, and you pull the shoulder back first and then squeeze, man, that's magic. And your back will feel so strong. Plus your biceps get big from this and you don't even realize it, and just look cool. So
yeah, I mean, I don't see any downside.
Any last thoughts on the program, Deej? What is it that you're hoping that everybody gets out of this?
I think it's just like a little different taste, little splash of me. I don't know.
Splash of Deej. That's what we're getting out of the Project Powerhouse. Is you're getting a splash of Deej.
I think it's also kind of the
best served with tequila.
Kind of a good feeling like alpha, where it's like at the very end you're getting a really good. I think ending with a pump is one of the coolest things you could do. It's just like, oh, I'm looking in the mirror, my veins are pumping out of my skin, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so
When we
big.
first started the gym, I was scared to talk to people about the pump too much, because I didn't want our early members to think that I was just broing out all the time, because I really wanted to teach people. But as we've leaned into that, it's become something that our members look forward to and love, and they've realized is truly the path to growth too. So I think that we've continued to go back to it now. How can we end the workout with a pump? Because everybody feels better doing it. So I'm psyched. I think they're going to love it.
Yeah. And I think it's just something different, where I think about when I first started, and it was just like, I like first started lifting, and it was just like, oh, I'm just going to do the casual, like, I'm just going to go chest and triceps. And then like, it's all 8. Like, I never changed any of my reps, really. I was just like, okay, I'm just doing the same stuff I did the day before. And I don't know. I think there just wasn't as much thought process as I have into this now, to where it's like, okay, play with the reps. High rep stuff is actually some really good work. Where I think it'll lead you into more successful if you want to go like really heavy later down the road. Get some good endurance in for your muscles.
Endurance,
and
blood flow to the
then
tendons.
go into like some strength stuff later down the road, because it's going to help you build that foundation.
Bodybuilding stuff it helps resist against injury. If you're just doing strength work and power work all the time, you probably need to do a little pump and get some blood. Blood is healing. And you did it in the right way, right? We starting off with like heavy and fast, and then we're going strong but also fast. And then you're ending with the high rep work. And I think if we were to do that in the opposite and you start with the high rep work, then the power stuff isn't going to be nearly as effective as it needs to be. So I think this is going to be a great program, DJ. I'm super psyched about it. Guys, if you want to do this program, if you are like, man, that sounds awesome and I want to do Project Powerhouse, like I said before, you can go to www.strengthacademyrf.com and you click on the On Demand tab, and you're going to find all of our programs are on our app, and that's $29 a month, and you get access to everything that we do in the past and follow along with what we're doing in the gym currently. If you're looking to build power and athleticism while also stacking on muscle mass, this is definitely the program for that. And then also, if anybody's looking to lose weight or looking for more accountability with their goals, you should look into our body composition program, because that's something that we will open again at the end of June. And usually we only open 10 spots for people online, and those will fill up fast. I will let you guys know when that is officially open, but you should go check out the information on our website so that you have an idea of whether that's a program that is going to work for you like it has for so many other people. DG, this was awesome, man.
This was epic.
It's going to be, things like this. I'm like, man, I wish we could do 8 weeks of this, even though I know I'll be exhausted of it by 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But it's going to be really fun, and we're going to get really strong and big. So,
I'm excited.
guys, that's Strength 101. Peace out.